of urbanization, 42%, and an economic growth which is quite consequent and big. Unfortunately, in terms of infrastructure, there's an enormous deficit. It's a deficit that turns around about 40% of the in the loss of the GDP of the continent yearly. But in the presence of a development that is quite important, development of the demand on transportation from 6 to 8%. So, in the presence of these two observations, there's obviously countries that have made great efforts in railway infrastructures to develop it, but there are still many things to do. Africa, it's only 6% of the world railway network, about only 30% of the countries who do not have a railway network. These are observations that have been observed, registered, but in this situation, there's the Agenda Africa 2063, the agenda of the African Union, the Africa we want, this agenda, the International Union of Railways, African region whose presidency is ensured by our company, ONCF, the Moroccan Railway Company, has translated this strategy, Africa 2063, where and the strategy of Africa Railway 2063. As you see, we have where we will connect African capitals with the railway network at high speed. It requires 12,000 kilometers. Project that we envisage to link the African capitals with a railway network at high level network of railways. This strategy, Africa Rail 2063, is made up of four transportation axes: reinforcement, mobile connectivity, sustained development of internal performance, and the promotion of the economic and ecological alliance. The change pillars is a revisiting of the economic model, and a speeding up of the digital transformation, and an optimal irrigation of the territories. Objectives obviously are quite ambitious. It's about doubling the network in kilometers to attain 50,000 kilometers, and then so that the GDP or the contribution of the railway to the African GDP attain 14%. So to complement your answer, to complement your question on the Moroccan initiatives in Africa, we have many types of initiatives. The signature of cooperation agreements and supervision of certain strategic studies, in some figures about 21 conventions of collaboration, cooperation that ONCF with the African network has signed, training of 1,500 African 17 networks since 2012, and about 26 international conference. Morocco ensures the presidency of the International Union of African Network and the Vice Presidency of this union. Thank you, Mr. Bendani, for this information in terms of figures and initiatives in rails in Africa. And now I will give the floor to Mr. Tots to give us an idea, an overview on public enterprises investments in Morocco and the lessons, takeaway lessons, and probably some opinion on the railway sector. Thank you. Good. Thank you, ma'am. So, okay. Yes, it's good. Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to have been given this occasion to participate in this event. I'd like to thank everybody who contributed to this organization of this event. Just a small reminder concerning the Moroccan experience in PPP. We are a country of a long tradition in PPP. The first PPP operations with the private sectors dates back to the pre-independence era, since the 80s. Towards the end of the 90s, there was a multiplication of PPP partnerships with the private sector, especially in the electrical sector. Today, practically 80%, 70%, 80% of our energy production is on the basis of a partnership with the private sector. Today, Morocco has known major evolutions. It has been mentioned by the director this morning. We are now evolving a new legal framework to go to other things. That is to say, the experience has shown us the needs for development in this country are enormous. They go beyond the norms and the budget surface of the country, and we must absolutely find alternative solutions for the development and the multiplication of projects for investments. One of the applications that are more credible, the most credible are the PPPs. So through the new legal framework of PPPs, we are called upon to put in place a new strategy, a new PPP vision, a new PPP program as fast as we can. And moreover, that the investments at the NSF were must be speeded up before the World Cup that will be organized in Morocco in 2030. We will have a multiplication of investments, be they in infrastructures or sports infrastructure and transportation infrastructure, and the different categories of infrastructure. I will get back to your question, ma'am, concerning the importance of investments for economic development. I was going to say the economic and social development, and can reiterate the complexity of this thing in order to say that we need a sustainable infrastructure. That is to say that the projects today must not be developed in one single logic to face the needs of. We need to have a project that would meet all the pre-requirements in terms of sustainable development. Moreover, Morocco is called upon. We are at the same time and a country that is the most dependent on energy. We are not energy producers, fossil energy producers. We have neither gas nor oil. Above all, the hydric stress, water stress, that is to say, today we must find all other alternatives for project development so that it will be more sober and economic based. So, for the importance of investments in infrastructures, it's tantamount to saying that we cannot imagine a development, socio-economic development without infrastructures. If you have roads, hospitals, schools, you'll create economic well-being for the populations. You create a lot of improvements. You create consumption. You create services, and this allows us to have the economic development in the region locally. In the same way, if you look in a global way, one of the parameters for economic development is to have private investments in Morocco, to have private. One of the parameters of reference is infrastructures. If we don't have infrastructure, and we didn't have Tangier Med port, if we don't have any highways or the railway, we wouldn't have been able to export 400,000 cars. It's as clear as this. Infrastructure. An intelligent, well-developed infrastructure is the mobility, is the circulation of goods and people, it's the exchanges, it's the openness onto the borders, openness onto the foreign trade. If you have more airports, it's the external policy, but it's tantamount to saying it's infrastructure today. It's a very important and crucial components for the economic and social development for country. Still, we still need to have most adapted, most intelligent solutions to better finance infrastructure and to be expert and to control the PPP risks themselves. The PPPs should be mastered and controlled in Morocco and should be adapted to our needs. We shouldn't adapt ourselves to the PPP. PPP that must adjusted on the basis of the needs in Morocco. There are certain ideas, and I come back to them later. I will come back to what you have said on sustainable infrastructures. I'm going to add another resilient infrastructures that we need for the African continent. I'm going to give the floor to Mrs. Maria to ask her to share with us the strategy of her ministry. Thank you. Good morning. First, I would like to thank you for this opportunity that has been granted to me to debate, to question, above all, to position ourselves vis-a-vis the question of potential efficiency of PPP partnerships and private public investments. Maybe my presentation will revolve much more around or in a ex-ante approach of this partnership. Otherwise, an approach that is upstream of the partnerships in public-private investments. To this end, I'm going to speak about one of the projects on which we are working on the question of the efficiency of public investments, or the efficiency and the quality of the territorial targeting of public investments at the level of the national territory, on which we've been working, myself and Mr. Yassir Timtamani, who is a senior economist for CP. The idea, in fact, first, I would like to put you in the context. The idea started, in fact, from an observation, major observation, according to which Morocco registers a rate of investments as the highest in the world, which approaches in average 30%. However, the return on investments, and when I say return on investment, I'm not reasoning only through a technical approach benefits, but through an approach for creation of wealth and employment. So the growth or the registered growth will not reflect the importance of this investment rate in comparison with other countries of the same economic level. Emerging countries, everything is equal anyways. However, the idea started from this. We put forward hypothesis, an assumption which is that public investments at the territorial level would be dependent on its localization, and so spatial interactions that it gives birth to. The objectives of the work, in fact, is to test out the empirical validity of this assumption and to identify the related facts concerning the data. This is the first obstacle facing us, that is the non-availability of a database over a territorial environment. We have built ours. We had recourse to by bringing together manually all the information contained in the reports accompanying the financial law projects. We have managed to build a basis, a territorialized base that contains public investment at the largest sense, and its components, namely state budget, general budget, special accounts, and so on. And in terms of public investments of enterprises, public institutions, and territorial communes, we have also did kind of dispatching by ministerial departments. 24 ministerial departments have been registered, taken into account this, in fact, in order to arrive eventually at the creation of a barometer that could teach us a lot as to the efficiency of public investments before investing. It would be a tool for the central state, but also for the investors, be he public or private. This allow us to judge and assess the choices of investments, the appropriate or inappropriate ones at the end of each year. Once the projects have been voted for in the financial law project, I believe this is in a nutshell what I can say about this question. Thank you, our dear panelists, for having set us the environment of the strategy of our country.
Thank you very much for letting us know about the strategies of our country. That's why we know now why Morocco has this strategy of base of targeting different sectors. And Mr. Benani now will take the floor to talk about a PPP project, not in the sense, not at the level of the law and the level of the law. 85 16, especially the fast train called Al Buraq and how it was, how they managed to implement it. I would remind you of some of the performances of the ONCF that have been projected in real life. We have more than 7,000 collaborators with a large network of kilometers that covers different regions in Morocco. In 2021, we had uh, 45 million travelers with a capital of 1 billion dirhams. These performances make of us an important asset, and we could realize from the different projects we've implemented since 2018, following the instructions and the cycle of development that Morocco has taken over the last year. The projects, as you can see on the screen, it's LRGVs, the LGVs, the Al Borak or the fast train in Morocco, and also the tripling of the Kenitra Casablanca line, the securing the enterprises, and also the updating of LGV or fast train stations. We don't have this. We don't have only traditional stations, but we have modernized them as well. We've created logistic platforms that are designated for transporting goods, and they're also crucial. Back to your question now, some of the figures concerning the Al Buraq or the fast train in Morocco, we have 200 kilometers per hour on the double rail, 320 speed of exploitation. Two bases of work have been deployed over a few days of work. We could really talk about this, but it's a long work that has been accumulated with this experience. It's a project that is feasible and reliable. It's a project that we started earlier, and it's still expanding. It has proven that has been generated a lot of capital. There was an increase in the number of the travelers we transported over the years. There are also other numbers. So we have about 139 million euros of gains from our activities that we earn on a yearly basis. It depends on the direction of the itinerary, of course. More than we have lots of cars that deploy to serve the fast train lines. We contribute to the decreasing of the road traffic accidents and accidents in general. It's a sustainable project because it has given an alternative to the Moroccan population. It's a project that enables us to avoid $800 million from the emissions of CO2 emissions in particular. So it's a large network, and we focus on the different collectivities or the local elements. The LGBT is 100% electric and air and also the wind energy. So these are two elements we deploy for the dynamism of our country, our territorial planning, and so it's a project that has integrated different aspects. I don't know if you will get back to talk about the strategy or not. Will I be able to talk about the strategy of the ONCF? We'll talk about it. Yeah. So would like to say that the LGV or the fast train is to be able to generate much benefit for the country and create other liaisons or links beyond the ones that the existing one. Those are projects that have been developed from a higher level in our country, and they happen through large workshops and large fields of work within the country. Now we're trying to interrelate or relate or link cities amongst themselves using the railway. We try to create even portal spots and try to integrate the railway into the ports in the midterm with a larger focus on the far projects, which is the integration of the LGV fast train between Marrakesh and Kenitra, and then and from there from Marrakesh to Agadir, which would reduce the distance that would cut the distance short between those countries and transport individuals and merchandise or goods in a faster time. So we've been working this way, and it's crucial to mention all of this. The ONCF does has launched a program to launch an ecosystem, railway ecosystem that integrates even the automobile industry to transport them. So it's a vital sector. We deal also with export and maintenance and other elements. This is a focus about Al Borak, the fast trend, and the general strategy of the ONCF. Thank you very much, Mr. Benet. Thank you for having shared with us this experience of the TGV or the fast train between Casablanca and Tangier. It's a project that has by the SDGs, by many SDGs, hopefully others from the TGV or Kenitra Marcus Agadir will function the same way and take into account all these SDGs. Let's now go back to the efficiency of the territorial target and of the public investments in Morocco. My first question is for Mr. Toss. What do you think, before I go to Ms. Riyahi to talk further about this database they've created and what is its point? First of all, we have to say that the priorities and targeting of regions is the most complex part in the whole scene. So Morocco has gone through different stages and phases in creating this integrative approach by deploying the different expertise, which I'm going to talk about later on. In the 70s, we started working on this, and then there came another phase where we tried to enhance and sharpen up what we've been, our practices, and try to put them into reality. In the 80s was a passing period and the transition. It was the reduction of the actions of the stakes of the state in those companies, and through the diagnosis, we've come up with new elements, and we try to match the needs with the decisions and also the relevance of the decision that the state makes in certain areas of the government. It's a huge. Those were reflected in the huge projects that have seen light in 1980s and then in 2015 with the name of regionalization and so on and forth. This has been expanded and it's gone beyond the scope. It was at this level that the planning or territorial planning in Morocco has started to witness a new era through the regionalized state, means implicitly the region and the means it possesses. This region possesses based on our judgment on the needs of those regions. We try to develop purely regional projects, and the sectorial strategy that was also deployed and taken into account. It has become a tool for planning and the development of more efficient and robust infrastructure. You've seen a demonstration throughout or across the sectors, portals, railways, and the scheme is there has been created the acceleration, speeding up of the procedures have borne some fruits for all of us. And while preparing for the upcoming World Cup in 2030, we have a lot to come for renewable energy as well. Morocco has developed partnership, an intelligent project of partnership through which we could create a unity for industrial activities in Morocco, and which is integrated or maintains a unity integrated in it, belonging to the private sector and its back. So the public are working together on such a huge project with an ambition to export and start exporting those productions, especially from renewable energy. What is good about renewable energy, and this applies to other sectors, we are bound to plan in accordance with all our vision of our projects and try to integrate them in accordance with the vision and develop while developing ecosystems to be able to respond to the needs, create job opportunities, of course, and then open up on Africa and accompany the development in Africa alongside our country and work with Africa under the umbrella of established partnerships. As for the territories or the territorial planning, the projects, they are selected in accordance with the certain criteria, depending on the charges or specifications created for each project, alongside other projects that may have impact or social impact, economic and social and convergent impact on the region. As we talked about, we try to base our judgment on the levers, we try to base our judgment on different sectors, we try to work across the board, integrating all these sectors. We're not based only on one sector and neglect another, but we try to come with convergent strategies for the sake of achieving the final objectives of our vision. And the point of this vision, one project would be put in a grid, for example. We try to analyze it and see whether it has the priority or not. Does it serve the social and economic vision we've created earlier? In order to do that, we have to scrutinize the project from using other aspects and how it will create more competitiveness in our economy. And this is how we decipher how this project can contribute to the competitiveness of the Moroccan exportation product, or the auto-sufficiency that would be created in the country before we export within Morocco. This is the total vision. We have different prisms that we focus on to create targeted, pertinent vision or objectives that would demonstrate our upcoming elements which we work on. So these PPP or the public enterprises are crucial as well. There are about 90 units that exist across Morocco, and they've developed enough expertise in planning and programming of the project. We've had also other experiences in our books going through the ONZWA, the National Agency for the transformation of the argan oil production, alongside other agencies which we consider as crucial in the administration of water, the agriculture through these OLGA, the ONI as well through a program it has created that is affiliated with the National Office for Electricity. So we are now 100% deploying Moroccan companies in the management of national water and electricity, especially in rural areas. The network, the road network, we have specialized entities working on this. We try to master the trades of the arts we have in Morocco in order to make a significant step ahead without missing anything. But what is essential here is to take into account all the facets of the issue towards these converging elements and create this convergence that would bring together policies and expertise and everything to serve the supreme objective of the country. Mr. Jaime, the floor is yours. I would like to underline one major point here regarding this will be done before any initial results. I'll be talking about this. So, in under this umbrella, we've created a system of operating models or territorial modeling. The origin of the system makes us think and makes us believe that it can create a model for regional modernization based on what is traditional, which would generate a common a collective sense for everybody and identification of everybody with their belongings. These systems enable us also to have proper interaction with each region single-handedly. In which region, for example, ask ourselves, the public investment would be more efficient or not? So would be beneficial or not? Would be profitable or not? That's a tool that we deploy and we try to examine it on the ground. Because while the investors, the private investors, try to invest, they try to see where money yields money, where the yields are high, and so on. So this, on the other hand, enables us to generate a direct impact, direct effect. The public investment on a given territory would allow us to generate what we call direct impact or direct effect or postponed effect. So we try to see there are lots of crossings, crossroads that have been created with politics and policy. If, for example, the president of the regional council belongs to the same political party with the majority of the parliament, or the prime minister's office will be adhere or not. So those are big questions we ask ourselves in terms of the public service and the functionalities. We need some transformation. We need to ask ourselves whether this would work or not. And we have to take into account the climate of business in the region as well through the different variables or existing variables. So I would briefly talk now about the initial results that have been reaped so far. So we envision the investment in some of the regions in the continuous growth and in terms of the public institutions that their investments and also the local governments in consultation with the local governments. The central government is trying to work with them, and it happens that this is pre that is continuous. It was at a lower percentage. It's about 50% up to now. It represents 50% of the public investments go go to the region, and it constitutes 20% back in time. And there's an increase in this. Before it was 17%. So there's a change in the percentage. This compared to the region between 2019 up to 2021 during the period of scrutiny and study. This fluctuates from time to time, and it leads to the slowing down of the enterprises created with the public money, which are purely commercial. How do these public investments be reached? And we see when they are strictly rigid and they deal with each region at a time, the establishments say are purely commercial. Though they are public, they are commercial, and that's what are the reasons that explain this demonstrate this tendency. We have Salih, Kenitra, Stat. They are the most populated in Morocco. 50% in the total percentage of the public investment in those regions, and they are commercial and they are at the head of the investments in Morocco and the national production, economic or industrial production in the country. There's another tool that has to do with fast, as زراعة فيلال, another بني ملال خنيفرة, Susmas as well. Those are the reason, the less recipient reasons of the public funds and public investment. They are undergoing a process of a integral regionalization, and we see that the some superior investment that have been allotted for this with regarding with the in comparison with the GDP and so on. So the GDP and its performance will impact those reasons. These tendencies persist through time. We will go to better regions, start Casablanca, Salih, Kenitra, because that's where we could, where the yields are obvious and visible. According to the results of modeling, or in accordance with these results of modeling, we come up with these results. We try also to see if there's any interdependent relationship between the position, the geo positioning of which region in the total territories of Morocco in the determining of allotted funds. And we've deciphered that this is great, and there's some reasons that are positive, and in general terms, it's positive. No matter what the geographical position is in a region, we can allot funds still to a less or more extent. That's why we try to create groupings and sorting out of the region according with their importance. In this way, we could have generated three groupings. We find Kazakhstan, Tanzania, Turkmen, Husiba, Rabasali, Kinitra in one of the group. They are the beneficent, the most beneficent. The region, the less benefits are surrounded by there are other regions poorer than this region, and they can benefit to a lesser extent. And there's another group that is the outliers. For the outliers, there's Marrakech, Safi, and the Oriental region, the eastern region. The, they benefit less from this public funds and investment. The departmental analysis now we we witness a kind of double concentration as for the departmental aspect, we have these elements that should be detailed. We found among the 24 departments, sons so, or counties so far, they rely on the public budget, the department that equipment and transport and the department of agriculture, they are the less served by these funds, these public funds. Still regarding to the equipment transport and agriculture, I'm talking about, so still I'm talking about this at the regional level. We have three regions that dominate 55% of the portions allotted to the equipment and transport. Kazakhstan and Rabah Salik and the eastern region. So the big question we have now, which approach should we deploy, or should we take into account or adopt to change this regional target? Is it top down or bottom up? So we've come up with the best recipe or formula, which leads us to reconcile uh, both poles, both polar entities through the analysis of the projects and so on, and try to decipher the interest in the work, the risk, the original interest in all of that, and how this is able to generate more benefit and profit in each region of the country, and also go beyond that and look for the determining factors for the investments and so on. And thank you very much. This is all I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Riahi, for this statistics and the numbers and this for enriching information. So we'll be doing PVP in another region which carries within its folds a lot of interest, Bnim al-Daraa, region of Bnim al-Daraa. So we've had a look at the strategy. We've seen some concrete projects of the OSF. Cannot talk about this project without talking about funding and financing. That's why Mr. Fadil from the OSF will be invited to talk about the schemes and the financing put in place by the OSF to achieve its infrastructure projects, and at the same time the commitments of the OSF in green financing. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, participants. Thank you very much, Mrs. Moderator. Thank you very much to everybody who has contributed to the success of the meeting. As Fatim Zahra said earlier, before we talk about our financing strategy, we have to emphasize one important that is to do with the profile of this railway project. We all agree about the railway investment and requires colossal funds and finances that cannot be brought along or given or funded by one entity. We try to create consortiums to achieve some of the investments on the ground. Taking all of this consideration into account, we try to complement our strategies by diversifying the funding entities. We try to create many multiple projects so that the the funding can work with this. So that's why we try to cover the different aspects of infrastructure, rehabilitation of railway, the maintenance, the zones or spaces and so on. Try to project ourselves onto 50 or from 45 years to 50 years and see how the economy would look like by then. On the third place, we have the yield of the railways and how they serve the national economy uh, at in a long term. So we try. That's why we try to project ourselves into 45 years or 50 years in in the future. And that's why we sometimes we neglect certain types of projects. If we receive subsidies from the government, we're encouraged to do so, and that's why we have to work in parallel with the government. Last but not least, it's a sector that has a very performance sector in training and so on. So there is a socioeconomic yield that everybody benefits from through the maturity of the railway sector in Morocco, in the world. It's less polluting, as you all know, less polluting even than air transport. It's good for commerce and trade. It's good for the close by transportation. All those variables make of the helps us create an efficient financial funding strategy, the optimization of the cost of the loans or debts, and the true choices we make in the investment takes into account the cost, especially that this is a socioeconomically efficient yield. And this financial yield is important as well because behind this public service is not only the yield but also to serve the population and also serve the maximum number of regions that cover them through the railways. When we are in the disadvantage of these variables, try to talk about try to handle even the cost of the debts. We have the aspects of the maturity that have been deployed, that have been taken advantage of in pushing our limits further and think out of the box. Our preferences remain the first place in having or finding finances that would be applied over 40 years or 50 years. In the third position, we have the diversification of the financing, the financing resources. They're not only the investors, there's the state, there are also donations from other countries. The last operation that we've launched, and it's the first of its type in Africa, in the durable mobility or sustainable mobility for the institutional operation that has been inaugurated. I'll be talking about detail later on, and definition of our strategy of financing on funding for the upcoming years. So we try to integrate the ports in our functioning, and also this is all to secure our expansion and the multiplicity of our services. There's also the mastery of risk through the risk we take into account through our financing strategies, especially the risks of exchange or change rates and the definition of the rates. Is it variable or fixed and so on? But we take everything of that into account in our financing strategies. Regarding the modes of financing with which we resort, we have three major components. First, the CAF that we've managed to achieve through our office. It's designated for everything that has to do with rehabilitation, projects of exploitation for more extension, especially the ones that happen through financing in particular. Second place, we have the state through the donations and the capitals, and also the ONCEF is a mature sector in Morocco and manages a lot of funds. And also the fund Mohammed, the fifth fund for financing that we benefit from. There are also other types of debts and loans that we get from banks and financial institutions in Morocco. And also there are other partnerships, bilateral or trilateral, through which we benefit with other countries. And also we get other offers of loans and credits that can happen from different directions. There's also the subsidies of our financial partners that we benefit from. Therefore, for the third part of your question concerning the commitments of the ONCF regarding the green financing and funding, as I just mentioned, we've started the first operation, Dream which is under the umbrella of green financing of 1 billion dirhams. And this is where we have integrated the green finance. And there's another operation, the first of its type in Africa, in the durable, sustainable mobility. During on the development of this operation, we've had three commitments. First, the RSC strategy and sustainable development. Already, the ONCEF has created its social responsibility or corporate responsibility, social responsibility. As Mr. Zakaria just said, we've been working on different aspects from Tangier to Casablanca. They use green electricity, green. So even the commuting trains uh, are electric, or even the Bora as well. It makes use of wind energy as well. And in this way, we've generated about 1 billion under the umbrella of this green financing. We've generated about 1 billion dirhams to start our mission, and we try to expand to forward this to other assets that respect the environment. We are, on the other hand, the environment, one of these accompany other investors, or accompanied by other investors through a partnership and through a cooperation that is based on the nature that keeps sight of the environment in particular. Thank you very much, Mr. Fadil. Thank you very much, our panelists. As for me, I'll be stopping to ask my questions now. I would give the floor to the audience. This is interactive, as you all know. If you have any questions, please raise your hands, and be it in English or French, please go ahead. If you have any questions, we'll try to manage. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank all the panelists for this quality presentations, and for bringing along with this in these presentations more clarity regarding the ONCEP and the Ministry of Habitat in particular. Now, I would like to talk to you as a responsible as the PPP unit PPP at the Ministry of Finance, and also we're now head of X. Railway employee. I worked at the ONCEF in the past, and part of my experience with the ONCEF, and according to what I know, it's a mature sector in comparison with the definition it has been assigned by many. One of the ingredients that they are far, there's this political will through the implementation of projects of the LGV lines or fast train from here to 2030. The world will host the World Cup, and it needs all these dispositions available. It would be the OSEP will be a lever, or this event, such event will be lever for the functioning of the OCF. There are other parallel activities at different establishments and so on, and institutions. And also, there are needs. The PPP start long-term projects. We know, and we have to know in the know projects before we delve into it. Has to contain uh, dealing with traffic. I'm talking about the old stuff here. So, and talk about the ultimate risks. So there are three concessions to make throughout the project, and then we create the ONCEF, which is the office that monopolizes and dominates the railway transportation in Morocco. You've had gained lots of experience in your routes up to now, and you have much experience to anticipate even the risk. Can you this would present an opportunity for PPP projects with much interest, and we'll be able to think out of the box. So, and they, somebody talked to me yesterday and said we talk about the public sector and projects in the public sector. We have to think about we think of an imaginative project. I'm talking about the new stations, the new generation stations that we've built in Morocco. They adopt a concept of commercializing the train stations because there are lots of shops over there. A lot of things can be done. So the ONCEF can help in the exploiting and building such a station, which will generate a lot of revenue for the company itself. It's an office that dispenses the consciousness of the Moroccan state, and it has a huge responsibility, and it's the model for the PPP. On the not only the railways are traditional, when they were traditionally trying to develop, but you try to deploy different elements of maintenance and how to create different elements, the ONCF, and try to move along, deploying, taking advantage of the existence of the private sector, and try to get it on board in the future. And in relation to other projects, we have to think deeply about the PPPs that can discharge that can relieve the oneself from the managerial tough, toughness, the hardships. So we can do that for them through its contact, its capacity to finance, and renew the new and the innovation that you have. It's an important issue for the investors to know all of these things by dividing the tasks, especially the railway, and it's good for the PPP partnerships. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this information. It was not a question, right? It was a remark. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the panelists for their presentation. My question is addressed to Mr. Totsi and Ms. Riyahi. I would like to go back to the question of efficiency of your public investments. So this inefficiency of this sector is can be explained by different reasons. Mr. Johnson talked about one is the integration or the lacking integration of the investments at the level of the different existing department. Another reason has been dealt with or talks about in regarding the governance with which the projects have been started, and also the problems at the department. How can this PPP and its partnership face up to this observation, this challenge, and to improve its efficiency? And thank you very much. We'll be trying to take 2 or 3 questions before we answer them in one row. Thank you. Bonjour tout le monde. Permettez-moi de remercier les intervenants. C'était investment that has been infrastructure investment that has been achieved by Morocco. I must say that it's quite impressive. So my question is, how easy it is for you to get local finance here within your jurisdiction? Thank you. Une autre question? Merci, madame. C'est qu'on a toujours, quand on parle de partenariat public-privé pour le Maroc, ce qui nous revient en tout cas généralement, c'est que think about it over and over again. Morocco is advancing, and Morocco has deployed a lot of elements in the farming sector. If there's anybody who can tell us a few words in this direction, and thank you very much. Would you please repeat the question? I haven't understood. From abroad, from the external, when we talk about PPP in Morocco, as we see it as foreigners and for Malis in particular, we think in particular that agriculture and farming is the field of agriculture and the work have been advancing, have been making significant steps ahead. We didn't know that they make huge steps, significant steps in transport and so on. If anybody can add anything to in this direction, I'll be grateful. Do you have any other questions? If we have time, we'll be trying to receive more questions. So the territorial efficiency, there was one question in this direction, one question related to the local financing in Morocco, and one question related to the PPP in the farming and agricultural sector. As for the first question, Mr. Tots and Mr. Yahi, go ahead, the floor is yours, and then I'll give the floor of the financing for Mr. Fadili to answer. If you allow me, Mr. Rahmoun, there was one reaction to the question concerning farming and agriculture. We have a project, a problematic project, and some amongst you know it. We've achieved the project in the 1990s, a project called the Gardan, What happened there is that it was a region, a perimeter near the a zone near the Atlas Mountains that was ir- ir- irrigatable through irrigation of the dam water from the dam water and sources and also the aquifer. And then drought came along and the resources have been depleted in accordance with all of that, and the plantations have been halted and was not expected. It was a whole zone that was eradicated. What we did is that we created a PPP, and there was a dam nearby, a little bit far. It's a partnership between the private and public sector that have conducted the investment. They manage both the canal of transportation of water and the perimeter of the irrigation. What is intelligent this equation was that the farmers were committed to the project from the very beginning through the contribution to the project. In addition to all of that, the demand has been, and also the water has been divided amongst the farmers, and they have this partnership, a PPP partnership. I would go back to the question regarding the territory efficiency, how to use the PPP to target better. The PPP, in my sense, is the management scheme of the project. So to do, not to do, it's up to the state, and it goes back to the local governments as well. The planning stage, the targeting, and the efficiency in the evaluation and pertinent relevance of the evaluation has to be ensured by the government or assured by the government by deploying different available tools that have been mentioned earlier. And in particular, a project that has impact, a project can be prioritized based on its impact. We have to be clear from the very beginning, and we have to determine correctly the impact of the future impact of the project. It's a subject based on there's this convergence as well that should be taken into account. If you have project A, does it respond to the development strategies that have been put preset? Does it go alongside the project? Does it contradict with others? Do you have the means to transport, to store, to stock all the things you, the dispositions you'll be needing? So it's a tool that to plan to plan and manage better performance. It's the added value, in my sense, to the PPPs. In addition to the finances, the financing of the projects and so on and forth, the biggest contribution is the expertise of the private sector. It's the know-how, it may be the technology that they possess, so the integration of these technologies and so on. In addition to all of that, is the contractual agreements that exist among the two parties. They're also crucial. If you build uh, an infrastructure and you manage it publicly, there are budgets, additional budgets. You didn't create space for maintenance and budgets and so on and forth. You didn't create service areas. You will have a quality or reduced service quality, which will impact your project in the future. But if you create this contract PPP, you have to abide by this elements. You have to create them to guarantee the success of your project, maintenance, services, maintenance, sustainability. If you do that, you are in a holistic vision and you are visible to the others. And not only the design of the project, but they have to be able to represent it from the very beginning to ensure the surveillance of everything you've been doing, determine who's responsible for what in order to conduct auditing. I'm talking about the OGFs, I'm talking about the all the auditors that can examine these elements. PPP represents and demonstrate different aspects interacting amongst themselves. And now it's the opportunity to talk about this in details and their implications. Thank you very much. Do you have something to add, Mr. Yahi? I would speak to this question of resorting to PPP. Can it improve the efficiency uh, after the initial results? By doing these investments, the rich regions are much richer, and the poor area regions are still poor and even poorer. The disparities are still there. They're getting deeper and deeper. What is expected from us is the other way around. I'm going to mention some of the variables that we've deployed to demonstrate my point and the phenomenon itself. I would take the political colors. We found that the sign of the political color plays a major role in the efficiency of the public investments. So the president of the region X, for example, belongs to the same political party that runs the government or the parliament majority, they can give more efficiency to the public investment. That is known. That's a sign that we were aware of. We can react to this facet. I'm going to move to the second variable, which has to do with the industry, as related to the weight of the sector. This gives us more information about the structural elements that exist in our territory. This sign is positive in some of the regions. As you can see, this is truly important, and it favors the industrialization of that region. We've attended we've witnessed a period of the deindustrialization that we've seen that it's against the territorial growth of the region. This observation is important. We have to take it into account. We have to go in this direction of structural transformation of the industrialization, because it will lead sustainable employment, and an employment that not only part-time employments that can disappear overnight, but we have to take this into account as services and sectors and so on, and that contributes in a higher percentage to the maintaining of the results achieved regarding the industry and its impact in the region. It's a parameter, as I make it. Mr. Yahya, yes. Please, could you please stop? We have another question here, and we have to answer another question about the local banks. I'm gonna take another question from here, and then we'll take another question from the back, from the rear of the room. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Mahmoud's Deputy Director at the Department of Public Privatization and Administrative Items. First, I think allow me to thank our head and thank the sponsors who have chosen Morocco as a host today. Thank you very much. We're very proud today to share with you our experience. Sincerely, I have a lot of questions to put to you, but I'm going to limit myself to a point of view. We're feeling today to make these 2 days a success. Above all, I wish that will be an example or an African case study today, as that of the ONC has been presented by our colleagues here. We too would like to appreciate what is being done elsewhere. The important thing is that after these 2 days, is in fact to see PPP a successful project, and where we did succeed, and ask the question, why did we succeed? What is lacking for us? We talked about financing, governance, and a number of criteria, stability, potential. All of these are fundamental elements, but however, we couldn't manage to take off rapidly. There is something missing. Then this feeling that I wanted to share with you. And I hope to have an answer to this question by our African friends. Thank you, Mrs. Bufus, for this testimonial coming from the heart. Thank you. We have two questions. Bonjour tout le monde. I appreciate. I'm Rachid. I'm from Nigeria. Je travaille pour l'autorité nigérienne des fonds souverains au Nigeria. On a beaucoup d'infrastructures.
And I must say that the Nigerian government has done a lot in that aspect. And one thing that remains is that funding of those projects are very, very expensive. And what we realize is that most of Nigerian projects are handled solely by the federal government. For some states, it's handled by the state. So what I mean is PPP arrangements are there, but most often than not, most of these projects are funded by the government. So the question is, in our own NSI, for instance, we've seen some of the projects we are supposed to impact on. All of financiers, what most of them have been asking is that for me to finance this project, I need to be sure that this project is project finance, meaning that it's going to finance itself through the return from that project. But in Nigeria, calling most of these projects is not very easy because most of Nigerians do not have money to pay tolls. So the problem there remains that to finance projects, it's difficult for the Nigerian government to partner with most of these private investors because you cannot get those from people to, from that project, which you can use as a return for financing that project. So I want to ask you, Morocco, how do you, because government is playing a lot of talent in this area, it means that if you push people to come and test, most investors almost of these books. So that means a lot of projects to be there in Nigeria. So the question is in Morocco, are they able to navigate this? Because one of these situations is political. If they are given this situation, how are you going to navigate this problem? Because it remains a challenge in Nigerian government. How can we navigate so that I can get financial to fund most of the projects so that Nigeria can come and get more? That's the question.
We still have in Morocco. How can we draw investors for projects? How do we attract investors in Morocco? How do we attract question? Comment vous avez attiré les investisseurs au Maroc? Locally and internationally. Good morning. I'm Ahmed. I'm an associated militant. I would like to ask questions on the disparity of the distribution of funds all along the 12 regions of Morocco. As Mrs. has said, Kazakhstan benefits most from these projects. Morocco in 2023 with the new financial law that has been voted in by Parliament, where we see a real part dedicated to, I would say, to healthcare. Really, when I see the figures this morning, behind, I'm out of sorts. Morocco needs more financing of its infrastructure, but and not really healthcare. This is on one hand. On the other hand, 2024 is Morocco still needing to sign PPPs, knowing that such PPPs, for me, I have lived through many experiences, such PPPs delay projects. If I were to give you two examples, I would say the water highway that should have been launched in 2010, or the water desalinization of Casablanca that should have been launched in 2014. I'm asking a question: why does Morocco always ask for PPPs that delay investments? However, again, Morocco has a very important financial basis, more important than the past. I don't know why you're smiling. I think we need to stop the questions. We have finished our session, but I'm going to ask the organizer to give us 5 more minutes to answer these questions. I'm going to start with the first question from the lady from Nigeria who asked the question concerning the local financing. There is Mr. Fadil that is going to answer this, and I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Tots, who will answer and summarize the two questions. That is how to draw investments. Is in charge investments and financing at the BPP because he's the Mr. Financial Law within BPP. Thank you, Fatim Zahra, for the questions from the lady concerning local financing. I'm going to speak about the railway case of Morocco. Cases of Morocco, as I said, our strategy of financing depend on the maturities that have been proposed to us by our financial partners and the depth. Certainly, local banks have their own part in our assets. We have local banks that lend us support more and more. They have a big part. They play a big part in our passive balance, but the big projects for over 40 or 50 years, the local market in Morocco doesn't have enough depth or basis, solid basis that is 24,000 million of dirhams and a maturity of 40 to 50 years. There are certain components that are entrusted to the local banks. To take, for example, the case of the current circumstances between 2022 and the first quarter of 2023, we have had the preference for the local market above all with the rates that were very high. For Euribor, we have a preference to have recourse to the local market to be financed. I hope I have answered your question, lady. Thank you, Mr. Fadil. Floor is yours. Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to take 30 seconds to give compliment to the question raised by the gentleman concerning agriculture. I talked about the Gildan project. I forgot, and I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about the new projects that are underway, which that of irrigation by desalinization of seawaters. We have the super project, which is already producing. It's 10,000 hectares. It is completed by our projects of portable water desalinization. There's also another project underway in Dakhla, always a project of desalinization of seawater. And there is equally a third project that have been launched in Tantan, and there are other projects coming to the pipeline, but their plan becomes even more easier when we look at the characteristics of PPP, when you have your hands on.
Il est contrôlé par l'État, c'est-à-dire qu'il est propriété privée de l'État, il peut bien structurer les opérations publiques et sélectionner les agriculteurs qui ont les capacités managériales, opérationnelles et les capacités de contrôle pour qu'ils puissent bien gérer le projet, puissent gérer leur exploitation, les conditions et assurer le paiement du service de l'eau pour qu'on puisse rembourser la stratégie de développement. Et par conséquent, le paie doit être fait avec un impact positif. Et il y a donc d'autres projets qui sont. Je reviens à une question qui s'est déclarée. Avec le Nigeria, l'attractivité ne prend pas uniquement de montage de PPP et de la structuration du PPP. Nous devons prendre plusieurs facteurs. Ça a été cité tout à l'heure ce matin, stabilité. Il y a un environnement de projet d'impact également. Mais c'est plutôt un projet, même en PPP.
Even if PPP must
Même avec toute la bonne volonté.
even with the good will, if the square of the cubic meter costs 10 dirhams, and you manage with a project with a cost of 50 dirhams, even if you want to finance it, it doesn't go through the rational process itself. So the preparation and the structuring and the correct optimal repartition, distribution of risks and rules, and the good management of the process of competition, and that the jury that should pronounce itself uh, on the competition seats should have the competence, and then the structuring of the CPS, that is the contract, that is uh, the promoters, the developers should know and should realize that in fact the contract is structured in a way that would treat with equality and equity the interest of the state and the interest of the public. There are many parameters with your permission. Uh, I'm going to go over to the question. I have 30 seconds. We don't have a lot of money. We have a big budget deficit. I would I grant you to you, PPP is a long process, at least 2 years, 3 years to secure a project. And the competition process, at least 2 to 3 years. So, yeah, you're right about the PPP opportunity at set present may interesting advantages. And thank you, Mr. Stokes. The audience, could you please applaud this wonderful dialogue? And I wish you a great continuation for the next session. Stay please.